Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about, fatigue, flu-like symptoms, all of these. I guess it would be described as fatigue or the different types of fatigue. Now, the reason I don't think I've done a video on fatigue. I'm thinking about my symptoms playlist. If you guys want to know what my symptoms are specifically, there's a whole playlist where I describe my symptoms, what they feel like, how they manifest, and that kind of thing. Fatigue has never been one of my primary symptoms. I would say that I have had fatigue in the past, or I've gone through periods of fatigue because something was causing the fatigue. So I never felt like I was an expert on being able to talk about it, even though I have experienced it. But, since I did the treatment with the exosomes, there's also an exosomes playlist. If you guys want to check that one out, it details month by month the experience that I've been having with this treatment. I never really knew that there was a difference until I did this treatment. And there is a difference, in types of fatigue, why fatigue manifests, where it comes from. And I think sometimes we perceive fatigue as being one thing when it isn't that. It could be like brain fog or something, and we're like, oh, this is fatigue. And I've been experiencing a lot of brain fog as well, and that has also been an eye-opening experience. So I kind of wanted to make this video to sort of, I guess, describe my own experience and what I think the differences are between all of these things that we may perceive as being fatigue. And like I said, I'm not really an expert. There are people that, have Lyme disease, MS, SPS, and they're like bedridden. They can't get out of bed. I also saw a recent documentary, and I did do a video on that. It might be up, it might not be up yet. I saw a documentary on ME/CFS, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. It was really, really good. And I talk about it. You guys will see that vlog coming up. And that also opened my eyes as to how severe fatigue can get. I've never been that severe. I've never been bedridden. But again, I do think there are also levels of fatigue, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So what is fatigue? I think that's kind of where we get sort of stuck, is what is that? People say, oh, I'm so tired. I'm fatigued. Yeah, it's like feeling tired. But I think when it pertains to illness, it's just constant tiredness, and you never feel refreshed. So you go to sleep, you sleep, and then you wake up the next morning and you're still tired. You still feel tired. You still feel, I guess, sleepy, which I think there is also a difference between feeling sleepy and feeling fatigued. There's also what people call, there's painsomnia, where pain keeps you awake, but I think there's also fatigue somnia. You're tired, but you can't sleep. So that just, it's like a vicious cycle. I actually right now feel kind of out of it. I woke up at 5:30 in the morning with some pain. I did sleep kind of solidly from 10:30 to 5:30, but I woke up and I still feel kind of like out of it and weird. I would say what I'm experiencing right now is probably more of a brain fog type of thing and not so much fatigue. So for me, I feel like fatigue is just being like chronically tired, feeling run down. You don't feel better after rest. It's chronic. So it's not something that, it's very persistent. But I do think it can vary in severity. So there are people who are bedbound, who literally just have to be in bed. Maybe they get up to eat or whatever. But I do think that there are people that have constant fatigue, but that are still working, that are still able to work. They just feel tired all the time. And, a lot of people say, you have adrenal fatigue. So it could be from that. I do remember the one time that I had, and I want to say, you know, I think it was a mixture of fatigue and brain fog. When I had really bad candida, and this was when I was I was probably like 24. I had a bad stomach infection the year before when I was about 23. I did the antibiotics, got through that, developed severe candida. I didn't know that I had that at the time, but I developed really severe acne, which can be a symptom of, you know, leaky gut and candida, and also had this fogginess, just feeling out of it all day. And also I was like tired. So at the time I had, you know, I was dating someone, and I remember falling asleep. And it was like maybe 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. And I was still really young, you know what I mean? People my age, you know, at that age, people are going out, clubbing, staying out till, you know, odd hours of the night. Some people. And we were just talking on the phone. I would be laying in bed and just would fall asleep. Then I would wake up the next morning and I would struggle. You know, I mean, I've never been a morning person, but I would struggle because I was a substitute teacher and I had to be at the school. I think class started at 8. I had to be there by 7:30. And literally, I would make it there like by 8 o'clock. And it was rough. I just remember feeling very, very rough. And, you know, trying to get through the day. I just felt so out of it. But I know it was a mixture of probably fatigue and brain fog. The fatigue is just not being able to get up in the morning. Like really, I was like, I don't want to get out of bed. Like it would almost make me angry to get out of bed. And the brain fog, I think, was just not being able to think straight the whole day. So you can have an overlap of these symptoms. So brain fog. Brain fog to me, you know, and I think a lot of people confuse brain fog with fatigue. With brain fog, if I'm paying attention, my body doesn't feel tired. Like right now, I don't feel like my body feels really tired. It's just kind of like from here up. You know, brain fog is sort of like you feel like you're in the clouds. It almost feels like you can't see things clearly, even though you are seeing things clearly. For me, it's almost like pressure in the head, particularly the right side. You know, I just feel out of it. I guess almost like your head feels kind of clogged. So physically from the neck down, I feel fine, but from the neck up, it's like, ugh, you know, this is weird. You know, everything just, almost like, I guess things are in slow motion in a weird way. It's difficult. Brain fog can be difficult to describe, but there is a distinct difference between brain fog and fatigue. A lot of times they happen together, so I can see why people confuse them, but I do think that there is a distinct difference. It can also feel like a heaviness in your head, whereas I think fatigue is a heaviness in your body, like all over. Flu-like symptoms. Now, flu-like symptoms is very, very distinct. Flu-like symptoms is, and I know that flu-like symptoms is very common in Lyme disease, and I believe in multiple sclerosis. And after doing the exosomes, I have discovered that I don't think I've ever really experienced flu-like symptoms. And even with IVIG, because that's another medication that I'm on, one of the side effects is flu-like symptoms. Now, let me tell you, I thought that I had experienced flu-like symptoms until I did the exosomes treatment. And for me, this, you know, when they say flu-like symptoms, they mean flu-like symptoms. I'm talking about nausea, and you wake up. I've woken up like this. This has happened to me probably 4 or 5 times since I did the treatment in January. So right now we're in August. So I guess I kind of have been lucky because I'm pretty sure there are other people out there that have it a lot more. But I'll wake up and I don't feel awake. I still feel really tired. And there's like this kind of nausea. And there's also different types of nausea. I got to do a video on that if I haven't already. There are different types of nausea, and that's another brutal discovery that I've made that I've made with a lot of these, with this illness and with a lot of these treatments. You feel this lingering nausea. It's not a nausea of, like I have stomach acidity. It's almost like sick. You feel sick, like an illness. There's also this feeling of faintness, which is really scary. Feeling faint or feeling weak. Your body literally feels weak, like shaky kind of, which is it's a very scary feeling if you haven't had it before. Body aches. You might get body aches. You might get body aches if you're having a flu-like episode. With the actual flu, obviously you have body aches, but with flu-like symptoms, I don't always get the body aches. You might feel a body weakness instead. You might have headache and neck pain, that kind of thing. The tiredness with the flu-like symptoms, I have learned, is a tiredness that I need to lay down. Accompanied with the weakness and all of that, I need to lay down. I have to get into bed. There's no way. I fought it for many hours, but eventually it gets to the point where it's like, I need to get into bed. I need to lay down and try to get some sleep. There's also, with all of these symptoms, your probability of sleep is different. With fatigue and chronic fatigue, you might sleep, you might not. I think, there is that issue where people that are fatigued also have the insomnia, and so they can't sleep, and that just is a vicious cycle. With the flu-like symptoms, I feel like you'll probably sleep. And I have been able to doze off a bit, when I've had that type of symptom. With brain fog, I'm not sleepy. I will lay down, but I'm not sleepy. My body is like, I'm fine. It's just your head that feels super weird. So yeah, with flu-like symptoms, I feel compelled to get into bed and just rest because my body is literally experiencing something, and I just, and with fatigue, again, I could get into bed and I just won't sleep. And it just, chronic fatigue is just one of those things. My heart goes out to people that suffer from it because it's almost like a crazy making kind of illness, because you're tired, but then you can't sleep, but then you're just exhausted all the time. And I remember when I had Candida, I was like, I hate this feeling. And I wasn't anywhere near severe someone with actual chronic fatigue, but it's a mission to get through the day is what it feels like. There's also medication-related fatigue and tiredness. And, that's what happens when you take Benadryl, IVIG as well. You will probably sleep. When it comes to medication-related fatigue and tiredness, you'll probably sleep. It'll knock you out. And I would look forward to my IVIG because I knew, especially if I was having issues sleeping throughout the week, that was the one time that I knew it was going to knock me out. It's a sleepiness that you can't fight. You can't fight it. It's going to knock you out. You can't keep your eyes open. You also, when you're really, really sleepy like that, it does make you angry. Like I would feel so tired that I felt angry to the point where I would lay down, and I was like, laying down isn't even enough for this level of sleepiness. And a lot of that is medication related. But your condition, your medical condition can be so bad that even medication won't put you to sleep. Even if you suffer from fatigue. And that has happened to me. I did notice that at a certain point, once my body had sort of gotten used to the IVIG, it would knock me out immediately, but then I would wake up. Like early in the morning. And I hated that because it was like, this is my one night of good sleep, and I can't even get the full night of sleep. And of course that leads to fatigue the next day. So I think those are the 4 types that I identified. I'm sure that there are many other types. There is a lot of research being done into ME/CFS. Watch my other video. It's really good. And watch that documentary that I recommend in there. But I've learned a lot from this treatment with exosomes, and with stem cells it happens as well. You will deal with fatigue and, body aches and pains, things like that, as a side effect from the treatment. I believe it means that the treatment is working. There are some people that suspect that it's viral reactivation and that kind of thing. But I don't know, because I've never had some of these symptoms, or I've never experienced them this much. I'm hoping that it's a good sign and that it means that the treatment is working, or that it's doing something in my body. But it has been, it's been kind of scary because, like I said, I never suffered with these symptoms, at least to this severity. And it's been eye-opening. And it does give you some empathy for people that suffer from these conditions, from, chronic fatigue in particular. I've always thought, what's worse, to be in pain all the time or to be tired all the time? And to be honest, I think that level of tiredness is painful. It's a weird way of describing it, but I think there is a level of tiredness and fatigue that you get to that is just painful to experience. And so, it's, there are so many levels to fatigue that, it's unimaginable. Sometimes with me, it's like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't imagine it being any worse than this. And it is, it can be worse than that. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video because this has been a new experience for me. Please leave your comments down below. Have you experienced fatigue? What's the worst fatigue you've experienced? Have you been able to overcome the fatigue? For example, when I did the Candida diet and the Candida cleanse, that symptom improved a lot. The acne, the weird fogginess, the fatigue did improve a lot. Granted, I never went back to my previous state, but it made a huge difference. And it was, for me, it was life-changing because I was like, how am I going to continue working feeling like this, even though I was working feeling like that? But anyways, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.